Hello?
Queen Tut, it's Jason. I got your message. What's going on?
Well, Jason, as you know, the closer you get to the truth, the more profound the attacks will be from very subtle forces. Whatever alphabet type, names you want to put on these sources, there may be sources we don't even know how to name at this point. But the closer you get to truth, which, by the way, the crowdsource of truth is getting very, very close to the center of some very, very serious problems going on in our country right now. And we all know that. That's why we all love that and really appreciated that interview that was done with Andrew Taggart yesterday. But we also know that we're hitting a nerve.
Well, there was tremendous trolling going on that Andre Taggart interview. Most of the comments have been overwhelmingly positive, but there are, as you said, a lot of really obvious trolls and just people going crazy in there.
Yes. And we have to go back a day or two to this, too.
Yeah.
We're seeing a trend here, especially after the interview about,
The general's letter relative to Robert David Steele, that one that we just did with Trish and everybody?
Yes, correct,
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
There were there's an enormous amount of hits, trolling hits against that were dramatic.
Yeah. I know you've been following this YouTuber who goes by Suis, and that you think that's actually either an agent of or an alias for Robert David Steele himself.
Yes, I've been told that by another crowdsourcer. I've had a few crowdsourced people, contacting me, telling me to look at this because that is their belief. And I looked at it from that perspective, and I've been following that particular person who has been making those comments. And I started to look at a pattern here, actually, with all the interviews you've done with Queen Tut.
Right.
And found out that this particular person is significantly trolling those videos, and specifically video interviews, and goes in when all the attention is off of them and follows up by trying to be the last word on everything. So that when anyone goes to that video, they're going to just see their comments everywhere. And the trolling is completely about explaining Robert David Steele's positions.
Interesting.
Okay.
I think I got an email yesterday from someone claiming to be that YouTuber, but I'm just looking for it right now. I haven't had a chance to follow up, and I have no way of verifying that, the email is in fact that same person, or even if it is, no way of verifying that person's not acting on behalf of RDS.
Yes. Well, and like I said, it's not just me. I'm getting, emails from crowdsourcers about this.
Okay.
And so I now, after looking at these patterns with this one particular person that's commenting, it's very, very interesting. Something has surfaced starting yesterday. I believe that there is an active op taking place against George and ultimately crowdsource the truth. And we're in the middle of it right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
And here's what I want to outline, and I want to make everybody aware of this because this is how they work, This is how they work. So deceitful and so insidious. They just kind of infiltrate, trying to look like they're part of the group, not only using false commenting names, but also using overt things. For example, yesterday on George's Twitter account, Truth Leaks, he posted a tweet about the fact that his Venmo account was frozen and that there was a problem.
Right.
Immediately, RDS comes in.
Right.
Robert David Steele comes in with a tweet about some monies that was sent to him for George.
And you know what? I saw that actually while I was on the train coming to Washington, D.C. I was having a phone call with Mr. Hudson, and I saw that, and all I did was say it appears that George is in communication with Robert David Steele, which, exchanging tweets, exchanging emails, that's communication. And immediately I got jumped on by pro-George, anti-Jason users who said that George rebuffed Robert David Steele, which is clear from the tweet, but all I said was they're in communication. I'm pointing out Robert David Steele, not trying to say anything negative about George. I obviously want George to succeed. I just point out when he makes what I perceive to be errors or does things that I don't agree with.
Well, Jason, I think one of the reasons why see, sometimes you don't explain some of your actions completely when you first do them.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that chat, I mean, I knew where you were coming from because we have talked about some things privately having to do with this RDS, Robert David Steele issue and him moving in on the crowdsource the truth and kind of trying to integrate into it. And I think that was your concern when you'd mentioned that.
Correct.
I knew that when you were saying that, and other people don't understand that. We've been tracking something that they're not aware of.
Yeah, and I think that people who feel like I've somehow done wrong by George are kind of on a hair trigger and want to jump on me for anything.
And not only that, we don't know who else is in there.
Yeah.
Okay, that has nothing. Who wants to divide us? Wants to divide everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the other thing with people that we're not aware of who are attacking you and supporting. They're just trying to make this attack on you and trying to create this division. Now, there's some people who generally, like you said, have feelings, and that's fine. But then there's other people that have nothing to do with this that are in an organized op, I believe. Mm-hmm. I believe RDS is part of it. So let's get back to that tweet.
Yes.
So RDS comes in with a tweet about some monies he has for George all of a sudden out of the blue after we exposed RDS, and Cynthia McKinney in the Unrigged interview. And he comes up with monies for him from some kind of Russian-sounding kind of person, right?
Who was that third party? What's the significance of that? I mean, there's always something complicated and weird with Robert David Steele. Why doesn't Robert David Steele just send $250?
Exactly.
He's probably too busy using it to get his RV fixed. He's got it in the shop from crashing it all the time.
Well, anyway, you and I both knew because we were talking about this because there was something significant about this third-party person sending RDS money, and then all of a sudden he shows up after, George is having problems with Venmo, okay? Mm-hmm. And then, George is very clear to him, in his tweet too, hey, I'm not interested in this third party money. I don't know where it came from. I don't want any part of it. And then in that actual email that RDS is responding to George, a second email, well, that's okay. I'll get rid of it. I'll just get rid of the money. And I'm going to tell you that. I want people to examine those tweets very clearly from RDS because he talks about just getting rid of that extra $250. When in the earlier email, he actually states it comes from a person, and he names the person.
Mirso Makanovic. Sounds like a Serbian name to me, not Russian.
Yeah. It's very, at least Eastern European.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we know who this Mirso Makanovic is, and why is Robert David Steele acting as a intermediary? Why doesn't Mirso Makanovic send money directly, or why doesn't Robert David Steele send money directly?
Very, very good questions. We want everybody to be thinking about those questions right now.
And the thing is, Queen, everyone's going to listen to this and say, oh, stop bothering George, stop riding George's coattails. This has nothing to do with riding George's coattails or bothering George. George is a journalist out there in the world working to expose corruption, and we are doing the same. I think that it's still very productive for Crowdsource the Truth and other journalists, everything from Crowdsource the Truth to the New York Times, if we want to consider the New York Times journalism. I think it's very productive for all of us to be working in a cooperative manner, and that's all we're trying to do. So I'd like to figure out who this Mirso Makanovic is and what relationship Robert David Steele has with that person, and why suddenly Cynthia McKinney can't bring herself to respond to a text, a Facebook message, direct messages on Twitter, elsewhere, but yet she's commenting and obviously observing what's going on in George's YouTube videos. Why hasn't she...
Yeah, a video from last night that he posted.
Yes, why hasn't she responded to...
Posting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She hasn't responded to any of our requests. You're right. She hasn't responded to any of our requests. And listen, we're not trying to... Well, I guess our last video we did, but up until our last video, we weren't trying to implicate Cynthia McKinney and everything. We're trying to point out that she is being manipulated sort of in the... And then now Robert David Steele is doing it to George. This is what Robert David Steele wanted to do from the very first day. If you recall, after that lunch that Robert David Steele had with George, where he perpetrated his alleged fraud by, we raised all that money for him, within a day or two, he started sending both me and George emails saying, Jason, you're going to get arrested. George, come work with me. So this has been Robert David Steele's purpose from day one. I agree with you. We need to look at these tweets very carefully. And I'll tell you something else. As I'm looking at George's Twitter feed right now, he's just posted, looks like early this morning or yesterday, an email from Venmo that says the fraud and risk team has reviewed the account and it appears he's been the victim of a scam.
Exactly, which I want to point out that in this video that George spoke on, that Cynthia McKinney and the Je Suis person have both posted on, together, all right? In this video that George talks about his Venmo being hacked, it's just so fascinating that Venmo got hacked so conveniently, and then Robert David Steele rushes in as a rescue with a third-party donation, and then in the second tweet where George says, well, you know, I'm not interested in that third-party donation, you take care of it, and then Robert David Steele says in that tweet, well, I'll just drop that amount to whoever it's supposed to go to, forgetting that he actually named the person in the first tweet. And then, and then RDS says, well, you know, if you don't want to use this money or anything, maybe we could do something together, like have an interview together or something. I can't remember the quite word, but...
Well, he wants George to join Unrigged from the beginning, and he wants to do that because he knows that George is very popular and has a large audience, and as always, Robert David Steele wants to co-opt that. That's what he did to Crowdsource the Truth on the first day that he came in when we allowed him to. That's what he wants to do with George, and that's what he's doing with Cynthia McKinney. Robert David Steele is a leech.
Well, and Cynthia McKinney is working with him.
It's very possible. Okay. I'd like her to answer for that, for sure.
It is my opinion that she is working with him because on this video, all of a sudden, Cynthia McKinney is posting.
It is strange. I agree.
And here's the other thing that I want to point out, too. So we want people to look at those tweets very, very closely. We want the crowd to look at them.
Yeah.
We want people to see this connection between George's Venmo being hacked and then all of a sudden RDS coming in with some money. Okay?
Yep.
We want people to look at Cynthia McKinney commenting on this video. Okay? And we want people to start connecting those dots. Because Cynthia McKinney never did this before. When did she ever post or comment anywhere?
It's very strange.
Okay. The other point I want to make, too, just before, you know, another piece that, you know, you and I have shared a bunch of, I'm looking at this trend and been investigating it, because it's not just me, like I said, I'm getting emails from crowdsourcers, too, that are pointing some of this out.
Yep.
When I look at, when I went to look at Cynthia McKinney's Twitter account, actually people had emailed me about that after our Unrigged Cynthia McKinney, all of a sudden, on the next day after you published that live interview, she's got 4 tweets about a wand.
Oh, yes, I noticed that. Very convenient.
All of a sudden, out of the blue, 4 tweets that didn't exist before about a wands and a wand gate and this and that.
Right.
So I'm going to tell you, start connecting those dots. Cynthia McKinney, from my opinion, perspective, is working with RDS. They're trying to co-opt George and Crowdsource the Truth. They're trying to co-opt it and sabotage it.
You mean the audience? They're trying to turn the Crowdsource the Truth community against me.
Correct, of course.
Yeah.
Against you, and they also want to divide this thing.
Yep.
They want this thing to end because we're getting very close to the truth.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Queen Tut, you're always so astute. Let me push this out so everyone can start looking into all these things, and if anything new comes up, by all means, get in touch.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Queen Tut.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.